Okay, so this is video number 2. This is just a quick video that I want to share with you because lots of times I'll get a phone call from someone and they say, "Hey, Connie, my friend's husband died and they have small children. Can I get some of your books?" So we talked a bit about my books in the last session, and we'll talk about them at length, I think, later, but I just want to show you that quickly. This is the first book, I Know Someone Who Died, and this is what it used to look like. It was big. I made it on legal size paper. The illustrations were all this cute little butterfly that my sister-in-law came up with. My sister-in-law, Deb, she illustrated all the pictures in the book. I picked the butterfly because the butterfly is a symbol of palliative care, and it's like a cocoon opening up to once their pain and suffering is over. So hospice palliative care and butterflies are a symbol, and that's why I kind of came up with that character. At first, I thought I was going to do like the sun or something, and the sun going through it, but she kind of picked the butterfly with me, and I really like it. So that's how it started out. Me just printing them off, going to the printer, and then it was published by Doug Manning at Inside Books, and now it looks like this. And so it's much smaller, easier for the to give to classrooms. It used to come with crayons in it, but they tried to make it cheaper, so like when someone died, a whole classroom could get them. And so the idea was making them um, a little less expensive so people could buy more because that's the need. I mean, if there's a death in the school, it would be nice to get them for everybody. So that's kind of where the book came from. So when people call and they say, "Connie, someone has died, I need a book." So I'll ask them, like, has the funeral happened, or are we in time yet? And they'll go, if they say no, the funeral hasn't happened yet, I'll go through and talk about a bonding activity. And when I was doing my education, one of the things we had to come up with was an idea to kind of help children deal with that loss. So I came up with an idea of the bonding. So what we do is I have a whole huge thing of hearts. I'll go um, to the dollar store when it's Valentine's Day, and I will buy as many of these hearts as I can get. And they are cute little hearts, and I have many, many of them. And what we do is I explain to the person that it's important for them to have a bond, something to hold in their hand, something to have. So when the person dies that they love, one goes in the casket, stays with that person. Even if they're cremated, it's cremated with that person, and one goes to the child. And so they know that this heart is always going to be with them, and they'll have something to hold and to give them comfort. And so sometimes I'll give a little baggie full of them to the child, and they can give them out as they see fit. If they think that this would help, if their grandpa died, I can remember one little fellow went up and put the hearts in grandpa's pocket of his suit, and then he gave them out to his grandma and cousins, and he felt that um, that would really help them. So those are the hearts. I don't know if you can see them. I have a pile of them here, um, and it's really like a bonding thing. So then I explain the heart is great, but I will give them example of one little boy whose dad died. And he and his dad used to go fishing all the time. That is what they loved to do together. They loved to go fishing. So when dad died, we took the little boy out, and his idea was to pick 2 fishing lures. So what he wanted was the fishing lure. So we bought 2, exactly the same. One lure went in the casket and stayed with dad, and one lure stayed with him. So when he was feeling sad or when he wanted to think about his dad, he would take out his lure and he'd have it in his hand and he could hold it, and it was a great bonding activity for him. So that's an example. Another girl, she it was her grandma that died, so she bought a wooden spoon. So her and her grandma used to make cookies together. So one wooden spoon went in the casket with grandma, and one wooden spoon stayed with her. And it was something she could hold and she could have. Now, the fishing lure, as it turns out, somebody got this little boy a beautiful box to put it in. So he would keep it on his dresser in the box, and that meant the world to him. So that is just a couple of examples. One little girl, she went out and she bought Eeyore, and they were two Eeyores. One Eeyore went in the casket, one Eeyore stayed with her. So it was soft, and she could hold it and hug it. But if there's no time, that's why we do the hearts. That way, um, they can be in the casket and they can give them out. I remember I ran into one fellow. He called me and he said he'd been all over town looking for hearts because the grandpa had died like 3 years before, and they did the hearts, and now grandma died and they wanted to do the same thing. So I had some at home. So he took them and he wanted to pay me, and I said no, you just take them. He said no, he said, I want to pay you so that you can buy more and we can pay it forward. So that's what we do. So I have a big thing here. Also, another thing I give them is a memories of mom or memories of dad if it's mom or dad that died. And that way they can work through that as well. But for the funeral, it's super important to do that bonding thing, whatever it might be, a football, whatever, buy two. One goes in the casket, is buried or cremated, and one stays with the child. Um, and another example for the funeral is my mother-in-law, who is amazing and was so proud of everything that I did. She paid for me to go and take a celebrant course. So a celebrant is someone who can perform funerals. And as it turned out, the first time I used my skills from the celebrant training was for my mother-in-law's funeral. And she would have been proud. So what we did, the granddaughters, one thing about grandma, she loved a garden. Another thing about grandma, when you came to her house, you had a cup of tea. You would sit and have tea and you would talk, and it was a wonderful time with my mother-in-law. So when she died, we got little packets of tea. It was red rose tea, and on each packet we put a sticker, and it said, "Please have a cup of tea in memory of our grandma." And the granddaughters passed that out to everybody during the service when one of grandma's favorite songs was playing. Grandma loved a garden, so what we did is we got packages of forget-me-nots, and on each one of the packets we put "Plant these flowers in memory of our grandma," and the girls passed those out as well at the funeral. So it's that bonding thing, making it important to the child. Remember that they're a part of the funeral, and they will remember this for the rest of their lives. So that's the quick one I wanted to add in about the bonding because it's important. The hearts, of course, you don't give these hearts to little tiny children because they are small and they would choke on them. So use common sense, and they are given to children old enough to know that you don't put them in your mouth and what the memory is for. But it is so important for a child to be a part of the funeral. It's so important for a child to be a part of the dying process. And so now after this video, we're going to work backwards and we're going to talk about preparing a child for the death and preparing them for the funeral and everything that goes along with death. So one thing we have to remember is we get upset for the fear of the unknown. So if we can help a child through the dying process and prepare them for what is happening, it's a much better experience. We can't stop that parent from dying. We can't stop that loved one from dying, but we can sure help the child along the way. And that's our job, and to help them and guide them and support them through the dying process. So this is video number 2. We're going to start working away at the next one's coming up, but I felt this one was really important to me to share. And I do have some other things in the sharing part, but we'll come back to that later. So that's the end of video number 2, and thank you very much for listening. Bye.